Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Prince Hall Think Tank, a monthly conversation amongst Prince Hall Freemasons where we discuss topics relative to craft masonry. My name is Brother Antonio Caffey, and I'm a very proud past master of St. Mark's Lodge number 7, located in Columbus, Ohio, where worshipful Brother Royston Snowden serves as our worshipful master. My lodge was granted a charter in the year 1852 by the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Ohio, where currently the Honorable Jerry R. Ellison serves as Most Worshipful Grand Master. Before I let the other brothers introduce themselves, I would like to state that the views and opinions that are expressed by us this evening in no way reflect the views and opinions of the lodges and grand lodges in which we all hold membership in. Also, while you're on our YouTube page, go ahead and click that like and subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything that's going on with the think tank. And if you have questions, as always, please feel free to post them on the online chat. And if we have time at the end of this broadcast to get to some of them, we'll do our best to do so. So at this time, I'll let our regular panelists introduce themselves first. Then we'll hear from our very special guest, Brother Morgan.
Oh man. Well, good evening, everybody. We're back for the Prince Hall Think Tank. My name is James R. Morgan III, and I'm a proud past master of Corinthian Lodge number 18, which operates under the auspices of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the District of Columbia, where the Honorable Anthony B. Corbett is now presiding as our Most Worshipful Grand Master. I'm so thrilled to be back here on the Prince Hall Think Tank once again. I want to before I pass the mic, I just want to thank the brothers who are here as our guests today, who have their own program on YouTube, the Esoteric Lighthouse. And part of the reason why I want to thank them is because when for a while there's been some folks have been saying, man, y'all need to get together and do and do something. And I actually had the idea. I said, man, maybe we should do like a verses or something. 'Cause everybody's doing verses these days. And I want to thank, but I want to thank these brothers for coming on, and particularly Brother Caffey as well, because we said instead of doing a verses where we're competing, why don't we collaborate? So in the words of Jay-Z, he said we together on the same track. What they're gonna say now? Let's go, Brother Jack.
Good evening, all. Brother Damian Jack, proud past master of Paul Drayton Lodge number 7 here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where worshipful brother Sean Moy serves as our worshipful master. Our lodge is a constituent lodge under the auspices of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of North Carolina, where the Honorable Daniel L. D.T. Thompson serves as our 24th Most Worshipful Grand Master. Once again, it's an honor and pleasure to be before you this evening. It's the moment, it's the episode, it's the show that you have all been waiting for. The collaboration that Brother Morgan has been talking about. He actually talks about uses a Jay-Z line. My favorite line for this one, comes from the late great Tupac in the song "No More Pain." When he talked to Devontae, he said, "Me and you in the same room on the same track." So this is something that we've all been waiting for. We're excited about it and ready to get it going.
True indeed. Thank you, Brother Jack. Brother Williams.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Williams. I'm a past master of House Harmony number 56 in Okinawa, Japan, but I'm currently living in Texas and a part of the Oklahoma Holding Lodge number 300, and where most worshipful Grand Master is Ronald R. Davies. Thank you for having me this evening. And I don't think there's no battle, no competition, nothing like that. We all family. We know each other.
Yes, sir.
Some of us we've met in person, so it's all that beefing wasn't no beef in the beginning. So I don't know why people thought that, but if they did, it was never there. There's a figment of your imagination. But I'm ready to get this on with my brothers.
All right. Thank you, good brother. Brother Vaughns.
Thank you, everyone. I am Brother Conius Vaughn Sr. from past master of Samuel J. Ennis 106, the wonderful jurisdiction of Maryland, under the leadership of the Most Worshipful Grand Master Noah C. Osborne Sr. I consider this an honor and a privilege. I don't say this much, but I do look up to you guys because you guys are veterans at this. And when we started, our podcast, we wanted to not so much copy, but emulate out of pride and honor, because we wanted to give somebody just a different angle of what Masonry can offer. And I think this collaboration will be well received. And I look forward to tonight and many more coming forward, because over the years, I think we're going to have many reunions together, and hopefully we can do something live. So this is good. Thank you again.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Brother Caffrey, can I say something real quickly?
Yes, sir.
So about and Brother Vaughn's, he's laughing because he already knows where I'm going with this. So as most of you all may remember, I currently am engaged in academia up at Morgan State University in Baltimore, and I was after a long day of being engaged in scholarship, I decided to go to a place in Baltimore that's familiar to a lot of folks in the Prince Hall family to go and relax and just hang out. And I just happened to drive by the Grand Lodge, the jurisdiction of Maryland. I saw a friend of mine walking in, so I parked my car. I needed to talk to the brother about something. I jumped out, went inside the Grand Lodge. They were having a consistory meeting, and I'm talking to a couple of people, shook some hands, and I'm getting ready to just roll out so they can have their meeting. I turn around and I see Brother Vaughn's is right there, and he's like, "Morgan, I know you're not going to leave without shaking my hand." And so we have a picture and everything, and it was all good. But the funny thing was, as you remember, we were all on Facebook Messenger organizing this episode. So I'm just excited to be here and see everybody. Y'all see my energies up, y'all. So I'm just excited to be here. And like you said, maybe we can get some live one day. Who knows?
Thank you, Brother Morgan. Brother Barrett.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Stephen Barrett. I'm a past master of St. Mary's Lodge number 4 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, under the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Michigan, where our 61st Honorable Grand Master is the Honorable Roderick D. Anderson. I'm humbled. It's like I feel like I'm with like my mentors, the stars, the people that you look up to. So I'm excited to get started and have some fun, crack some jokes, and just make some memories.
All right, thank you, good brother. So tonight we're like I said earlier, I think all of us said it, Brother Morgan and Brother Jack. We're all honored to have these good brothers and a few of the brothers of the Esoterik Lighthouse with us this evening. Their show, I like to say their show, it deals with a lot of the why behind a lot of the symbolism, the thoughts, the allegories of Freemasonry. And it gives you that in-depth knowledge, which we're taught as Freemasons. It really and truly helps us become better men. So we're excited to have this collaboration. We're excited to have these brothers on. I've personally been a fan of their work. Anytime we have, and it really goes into the thought process, I think, that I had even with the think tank, where I say, what, for so long we've had, which has been good, and we all benefited from it. But we had other folks with different type of programs and podcasts, and from having conversations with a lot of Prince Hall brothers, I say, we have some heavy hitters. And the Prince Hall side of Freemasonry, and I just love the fact that these brothers have showcased that and done it at a very, very high level. So I'm honored again to have these brothers on tonight, and I know that aside from our audience benefiting from it, I know I'll personally benefit from it as well. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, Brother Williams.
All right, good evening once again. All right, tonight I'm going to start off with defining esotericism. And before we go into that, I'll tell you what esotericism is not. It's not spookism. It's not a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo. Esotericism gets a bad rap based on history and people not understanding exactly what it is. In reality, esotericism is really something basic, and you would not believe that you're doing it almost every day. All right, here's my agenda. I'll be talking about what is esotericism, where does esotericism come from, a little history on esotericism, and the purpose of esotericism. Okay, what is esotericism? Esotericism is a term which covers a wide spectrum of currents in the Mediterranean, Eurasian, and the now global cultural history. As an umbrella term, it intends to highlight connections and developments over a long period from antiquity to the present day. Esotericism includes phenomena.
Williams, I apologize. We supposed to be sharing your screen right now?
Yeah, you can't see my screen?
No, sir. We need you to share it again.
Okay, let me try to share this screen again.
Not a problem.
All right.
We're gonna make sure everybody gets all of that wisdom.
Okay, sharing screen once again. Can you see my screen now?
There we go. Perfect.
Right. Go into full view. All right. We good? You still can see my screen?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
All right. So as continuing on, as I was saying, that is connections from a period of antiquity until modern day. Esotericism includes phenomena as varied as Gnosticism, Hermeticism, Neoplatonism, theurgy, astrology, alchemy, natural magic, Christian Kabbalah, Rosicrucianism, Christian theosophy, and Illuminism. The currents of modern occultism, spiritualism, traditionalism, and the New Age movement, neo-paganism, ritual magic groups, and a host of other contemporary alternative spiritualities and other forms of popular occult culture. In short, esotericism cuts through the established boundaries of religion, science, and philosophy. So in short, what I'm saying is esotericism is covered by a whole bunch of groups of people who are saying the same thing. Bottom line up front, esotericism covers philosophy and a way of thinking. It's a thought process or understanding our thoughts and processes in a hidden manner, or uncovering that hidden manner of why we think, how we think, and what we think. That's basically what esotericism is. It's a cover. It's removing the cover. Esoteric is a quality of having an inner or secret meaning. It is to denote and the distinction supposedly drawn by certain philosophers between the teachings given to the whole circle or the pupils, and containing a higher and secret philosophy, which is reserved for a select number of members and a few privileged disciples. This distinction was probably adopted by the Pythagoreans and was also attributed to Plato and by some late writers such as Aristotle. Esoteric, in a sense, is a mystic. In a sense of mystic, is also used to describe certain schools of Buddhism. So again, esotericism here, in this definition of esoteric, we're talking about an inner circle versus an outer circle. Esoteric versus exoteric, the hidden meanings and the visual meanings, or the meanings that are put up front. Okay, so where does esotericism come from? Esoteric is an adjective originating from Greece. It comes from the Greek esoterikos, from esotero. This is the comparative form of eso, within, and that's exactly what eso means, within. Esoteric refers to anything that is inner. It's an antonym for exoteric, from the Greek word exoterikos, or exoterico.
My apologies, brother. Again, were you still supposed to be sharing your screen?
Yeah, it jumped off again?
Yeah, it dropped off.
Okay, sorry.
My apologies. We apologize, y'all. See, this brother's so deep, he's got the system breaking down on us.
Sorry about that again. Let me try this one more time.
Quite all right.
Share screen.
There we go. Now you're good.
All right, so I gotta get back to my slide. Sorry. Okay, so here we go. We're good now?
Yes, sir.
All right, so exoterico, or is the comparative form of exo, or outside. So eso, inner, exo, outer. Plato, in his dialogue of Alcibiades, circa 390 BCE, uses the expression of ta eso, meaning the inner things. And in his dialogue, the Theodos, around circa 360 BCE also, he uses the term exo, meaning the outside of things. The probable first appearance of the Greek adjective esoterikos in its Lucian, it was produced by Lucian Samosata, The Auction of the Lives of 26, also called the Auction of Philosophical Schools, which was circa 166 CE. The term esoteric first appeared in English around 1701, History of Philosophy by Sir Thomas Stanley, in his description of the auditors of Pythagoras. The Pythagoreans were divided into the exoteric, which were under the review of, and the esoteric, which performed well enough to be admitted into the inner circle. Again, when you're talking about esoteric, you're talking about an inner circle or inner philosophy, an inner thought. So a further meaning or inner meaning. So it's kind of like you got the porch and then you got the people who inside the temple. It's no different than what we do every day when we come in the lodge or we go into a different body of masonry. So all esoteric means is a hidden nature, is not revealed to the public. So a small history of esotericism. Really, esotericism goes back to the span of beginning of time. It was always a hidden meaning to something. However, documented, the first term esotericism came from Greece. Esotericism is not a single tradition, but a vast array, often unrelated figures and moments and movements. Nevertheless, the following examples provide an overview of some of the most prominent esoteric movements and figures throughout history. In ancient Greco-Roman world, mystery religions, or simply the mysteries, were belief systems in which full admission was restricted to those who had gone through certain secret initiatic or initiation rites. The term mystery derives from the Latin word mysterium, from the Greek word mysterion, usually as plural as mysteria. In this context, meaning secret rite or doctrine. An individual who followed such a mystery was a mystis, one who has been initiated from a mayan, or from closed shut, perhaps reference to a secrecy, or only that of initiates were allowed to observe or participate in rituals. So again, what is esotericism? Somebody who's allowed to be initiated and participate in rituals, nothing more. Esotericism is typically associated with special forms of revelatory knowledge. Esoteric practitioners are often found searching for personal and transformative higher knowledge in the form of revelations, spiritual insights, or of what some scholars refer to as gnosis. Gnosis and esotericism are two different things. Gnosis is simply the Greek word for knowledge. To attain a revelatory knowledge has been associated with the exalted visionary experiences, sometimes resulting in symbolic and mythical representations that have inspired provocative artistic and literary expressions. So basically, esotericism hides or kind of reveals the work of somebody who's been inspired by art or literary expressions. We got a lot of artists here. We got a lot of people who write here on this forum. So basically, all it is expressing knowledge. Esotericism is expressing hidden knowledge of something. So esotericism often involves practices of secrecy. Any history of esotericism deals in part with initiatory societies that seek to conceal their inner doctrines and rituals from the gaze of the profane outsiders. From the profane outsiders, you're hiding your rituals, your documents, so nobody else can see what you're talking about. Contrary to popular belief, such groups are not usually driven by a desire to form a secret social bond and engage in conspiracies. Rather, in many cases, the practice of secrecy tends to be concerned with pedagogical function of initiation and establishing reading and practice communities. Esoteric initiation rituals are aimed at inducing life-altering and transformative experiences in the practitioner and are typically connected to the quest for higher knowledge about the divine, the self, and the world. So in the end, the purpose of esotericism is to find knowledge of self, to find God, or what you call a higher being, and to understand the world around you. These are transformative experiences. They're taught in secret. A practice of secrecy is no different than a lodge. So basically what esotericism is covering the inner doctrines and the rituals from the gaze of the profane. And this concludes what I have to talk about for you guys tonight. Here are a few resources that I use to research and discuss on esotericism from time to time. Western Esoteric Traditions by Nicholas Godrich Clark, the Cambridge Handbook of Western Mysticism and Esotericism, and the Western Esotericism, a Concise History by Antoine Favier. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brother Williams. That was a great presentation for laying the foundation in regards to exactly what esotericism is, because I think as you said, that there's a lot of mystery, I think, around not even I think that field of study is just that word in and of itself. And a lot of times I think it leads to a lot of people when they have conversations about the study, it leads them off into, the wrong, down the wrong alleys and the wrong streets, chasing something that where they actually don't have a true understanding of what it is. So thank you for, like I said, laying that foundation.
Yes, sir.
Brother Barrett.
I believe it's Brother Coney coming up next here.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Brother Coney.
Okay, I will get ready to go. Let's do this. Share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, so and it's hard to come behind Mike most of the times because he comes heavy and he kind of stole a little bit what I want to talk about, which is good because that shows we're operating on the same wavelength tonight. I was tasked with talking about esotericism and the connections and relations to Freemasonry. Now, I want to preempt everybody. This being a speculative art, a lot of it is kind of hard to find fact finding and actual chain of evidence, because a lot of the evidence that we find today can be biased to the person or an author because of their origins or their beliefs. So a lot of times we may hear something or find a fact, but again, if we want to, a lot of things weren't recorded really well for a variety of reasons. So I tend to think that most of what we find today is combated by three things, which is time, transmission, and translation. And those things, or those three ruffians that I think are of truth, is what sometimes over time can kind of change what we know to be true. And through further research, as historians know, through fact finding and more fact finding and things like that, things can change. So I'll try to be as very high level as possible and not dig too deep, just for the sake of time and brevity. So some definitions real quick. Alchemy. And I know you guys say, well, what does this really have to do with Freemasonry? I'm gonna kind of build up, and I'm gonna keep it real brief and kind of hit it really hard in the middle, because I want you to get an understanding of what alchemy and that whole esoteric mindset, where it began, and what we found to be somewhat of a speculative nature of how it could have coincided with the beginnings of free thinking in a speculative and operative guild as Freemasonry as we know it. So alchemy is a form of speculative thought. It has the aim to try to transform base metals such as lead or copper into silver or gold. It's also said to discover cures for diseases in a way of extending life. Okay, it's an ancient branch of natural philosophy, philosophical and proto-scientific tradition that was historically practiced in China, India, and the Muslim world, and Europe. In its Western form, alchemy is first attested in several pseudepigraphic texts written in Greco-Roman Egypt during the first few centuries Anno Domini. Modern discussions of alchemy are generally split into an examination of its exoteric, as Mike kind of hit on, the outward practical application, as well as the esoteric is the inward spiritual aspect. And the word alchemy just comes from the old French alchemy or chemie, used in medieval Latin as alchemia. And most of the time when you hear about alchemy, you hear about, well, who practices alchemy? Well, typically in historical texts, he was called an alchemist. It basically just means someone who transforms things for the better. And that's really it at the end of the day. When we take it from a physical aspect to a spiritual aspect. And not to take it lightly, but when you look at alchemy, when you wake up in the morning and you make toast, that's alchemy. You make a mixed drink, that's alchemy. Those that are gastro cooks, from a gastro concept of cooking, that's alchemy. You're taking two or more chemicals or substrates, and you're causing a reaction with a base, what we call fire. So fire is usually that base accelerant that can cause a chain reaction. You need heat. Anything that we do today, you always will need some form of heat to cause a chemical reaction. So it kind of gets into this next slide. So when we talk about the origins in alchemy, alchemy is even mentioned in certain rites from the 18th century, such as Count Cagliostro's Egyptian rite and Masoni's rite, which both will refer to alchemy or chemistry. Now, again, not getting into if the sanctity or the accuracy of these rites, I'm just saying that some of this stuff was mentioned. Okay. There was a metaphor for the journey of the Freemason as he or she, in case of Cagliostro's rite, continues through the higher degrees, transmitting to perfection through the discovery of the lost knowledge of the ancients. And Masoni's rite is also mentioned in chemistry as an art and wisdom is nature. And the most learned chemist cannot be even a pupil amongst us. There was a belief in some of the original constitutions, and it was written that for anyone to come out as an adept to be accepted, they had to have some basic understanding of alchemy, because they felt that that speculative art from a spiritual aspect was going to be needed to understand some of the things that they were encountering. Modern discussions of alchemy are generally split into what we would call an examination of its exoteric practical applications and its esoteric spiritual aspects, as stated before. Despite the arguments of scholars like Hollimard and von Franz, they should be understood as complementary, not something that works against each other. Although alchemy is popularly associated with magic, which is not a bad word, historian Lawrence M. Principally argues that recent historical research has revealed that medieval and early modern alchemy embraced a much more varied set of ideas, goals, techniques, and practices. In Europe, following the 12th century Renaissance, we find that produced by a translation of medieval Islamic works on science and the rediscovery of Aristotelian philosophy, alchemists played a significant role in early modern science, particularly chemistry and science and medicine. So as you can see, if you kind of trace history of thought and freedom of thought, which what the Renaissance represented, we can kind of see that there's a pattern of thinking that was happening outside the norm. And this kind of lead into how could this have maybe infected or caused some of the thoughts to be in Freemasonry, or were there actual people inside the beginnings of what we know the first Grand Lodge and those lodges to actually, when they manifested, some of that thinking came into some of the degree work. So we'll get into that very briefly as well. One of the key things we always hear about when we talk about Freemasonry and esotericism and everything, we always come from, everybody comes in and the 3 5s and everything. So operative versus speculative. You hear it all the time. It's a term. We use it. It's colloquialism. We wear it out. So what does that really mean? So when we look at the operative versus speculative, we're talking about someone that actually does. And excuse me, brothers, if I don't want to insult your intelligence, just repeating something you already know. But for those that do not know, operative is just something that says, hey, I work with my hands and I make bricks and I make buildings. I am an actual mason. As versus a speculative is actually I use thought and the actual arts, liberal sciences that you use to do your work. I use it to apply to my person and my soul and my spirit. And how can I form that to be better as I walk through life to impact myself and those around me? So it's believed to have originated from someone called Roger Bacon. And it was about circa 1214 to 1294. He was one of the most famous Franciscan friars of his time. He was an English philosopher who called for the reform of theological study the study of foreign languages, and the integration of scientific study to the normal university curriculum. He placed considerable emphasis on empiricism, and as has been presented as one of the earliest advocates of the modern scientific method in the West. Though later studies have emphasized his reliance on occult and alchemical traditions, he was intimately acquainted with the Aristotelian logic and philosophy. And as you can see now, you see the common thread here. You'll see that there's a branch of, there's a foundation to thought here. Aristotle, Hermes. So there's a pattern here. Mathematics, optics, again, originating from the Arab world. Okay, that's where you get algebra from. It actually means the era of mathematics. It's believed that Isaac Newton suggested that the first 2 degrees, and it suggested that he may have rebuilt, or suggested that some of the degrees rebuilt on the Baconian, or we call Roger Bacon ideas with tones of alchemy, because he learned from Boyle using the steganography, learned from John Wilkins, another member of the Royal Society. And when we talk about steganography, it is a form of encrypting knowledge, which we use a lot of, if anybody's familiar with cybersecurity, when we talk about crypto, you can take a key and a value. And it's basically saying, if I can write something and do it in a certain pattern, and I can leave out words, or I can change certain letters around, I can change words a certain way and cause a pattern, there can be what's called a particular encrypted message in there. And that's pretty much what allegory is. If you look at it from its most basic standpoint, you can read it at face value. But if you look beneath and you look at the totality of the message in itself, i.e. the Bible, you can kind of see that there's a bigger story or a bigger message trying to be revealed. You just have to learn how to look deeper. There's another individual, Elias Ashmole. He's speculated as having some connections to the one of the many representatives, the transition of the original guilds from operative to speculative. And this is said to happen between 1640 and 1717. This may account for all the mystical character and the symbols and the legends that we have in Freemasonry. And it is alleged that there's a Rosicrucian influence with the obvious presence of Kabbalistic influences. So again, really high level, just because of time. If you want to study about Rosicrucianism, there was we're talking about way back in like the 1600s when a lot of things started to manifest and be written and things like that. And there's even some individuals that are kind of primary to that particular start of that time. And when he died, he kind of like wrote a lot of journals and manifestos and things like that. And that thinking became what we would call as today as Rosicrucianism. And that kind of sparked that free thinking that was kind of hidden from the church, because at that time they were being prosecuted for thinking against Catholicism. They were thinking outside the box. Elias Ashmole was made a Mason somewhere prior to 1652. And it said, per his journal, again, we don't have any documentation from the lodge that he was conferred in. We don't have any ledgers that he was on roll. Don't have anything like that, but this is just from his viewpoint. So he joined Warrington Lodge on October 16th, 1646, speculatively. You know this from a diary entry he made, which states, I was made Freemason at Warrington in Lancashire, in Colin, and Henry Manwaring of Kirmachin, Churchshire. So it's unclear how active he was in the fraternity, and it's even more unclear because we don't have an actual record of him being on rolls or being conferred degrees. We do know that he was instructed by a person by the name of William Backhouse, who was also said to have influence on the Entered Apprentice degree in 1648 and the Fellowcraft degree in 1650. And I'll get into what the speculative thought is on that, because they were trying to say from those beginning thoughts of esotericism, there were individuals that were doing certain rites of passage that could have been considered a degree conferral at that time to what we know it today. But they're saying that they may have garnered or kind of gleaned from that and made the degrees as we know them today. So what evidence do we have of some advanced contemplative practices in Freemasonry or free thinking at all inside of these particular groups? So there's a Hermetic art of memory was a part of the operative craft. They say that around 1599. Now, we know that, again, when you think about operative craft, they were building back then. So they were doing things at a very rudimentary level. These guys were doing things. So they were trying to say at this time that there was some level of memorization. As a carpenter or mason, he would rule and direct to work in a straight or perpendicular line as his art requires. So that the precept of meditation direct the mind to think that way as the method does require. For the method to edify there a spiritual art. So what they were saying at this time is that for these guys to work from the hand, there's no manual. It's kind of like word to mouth to ear and hands-on training, on the job training, and then taking these sciences, but they had to memorize techniques and tools and ways to do these things. So they were saying at this time that there was a art of memory or related esoteric studies that practice among that may have been influenced in these 17th century Masons as well. And there's an excerpt from this book that I posted here called Restoring the Temple of Vision. And you can see here as though there's an influence probably by Puritan charges about the Papist associations of the art of memory in 1642. The firm to develop a Protestant form of the art. They say he must have learned from his uncle or someone in the family about Scottish Masonic uses of the visualization techniques, which he tried to transform into a method of spiritual meditation. So they took their actual vocation, which they did day to day, and applied it to what they did at night and how they studied and the arts and the sciences to make them a better person. There's also speculation that long before Ramsey had been made a Mason, he was known to support Rosicrucianism. And according to a particular writer by Shushar, it says that Ramsey wrote a Rosicrucian-style treaty entitled Liber Philosophicis de Divinis Mysteriis de Deo Homnibus Enigma Matorius. Basically says the manuscript demonstrated Ramsey's expertise in Kabbalistic mathematics and angel magic, as well as his interest in omnia architecto figura. So architecture, or God's architecture, the architecture of the universe, and how geometry is in everything. Begin these trains of thought are said to have influenced and been influenced not just by sheer wanting to create an organization that was secret, but it was trying to teach deeper truths based on what they saw in the world and what they knew of these esoteric practices. And then the last slide before I end, there's 3 degrees or 3 alchemical books they say to have influenced the first 3 degrees of Masonry. And again, just do your research, brothers. But they said that if you look at these beginnings of these writings, there's some basic influences, because everything that we see now is kind of like a 1-for-1. The first degree they said is the material, which you will find in the Book of the Landspring by Nicholas Barnard Delphinius. The second degree, you'll see a lot of that in the original writings of the transition. It's called the transition, and it's the do, which moves from the material to the spiritual, or the mutus liber. You see the second book here and that whole picture, and it's kind of like when you read these books, you'll see that there's very little writing and there's a whole lot of pictures, because again, they were trying to press a point that you could give so much inside of an image or images more than the writing if you knew what to look for. And the third degree is the culmination of the work in the 12 keys. Basically, when we talk about alchemy, that last step, that everything becomes to coagulate or come together. It's the resurrection as a spiritual being who does not fear death, a Hassin, which is a German, or a Taoist spiritual immortal who knows the way to extend life. These particular writers are Basil Valentine, Thomas Norton, and John Cremier, which was an abbot of Westminster. Basil Valentine, during his tract, makes it clear that he is concerned thereon only with the physical work and in the decorative manner in which mentioned. He affirms that if the 3 alchemical principles, namely philosophical mercury, sulfur, and salt, can be rectified till the metallic spirit and body are joined together, inseparably by means of the metallic soul. The chain of love will he riveted firmly thereby in the palace prepared for the coronation. Basically, what he's saying is that at this point, there are the 3 basic chemicals of everything that we do in the physical and the spiritual. Our body is made up of certain chemicals, and those chemicals make us think, act, and do certain things. We do not know, because a lot of people don't understand. Your brain has certain chemicals, and then those brains or your brain chemicals have base salts in them, and too much or too little or an imbalance can cause you to either be happy, sad, or whatever that is. But it also can make you to think. It can make you wonder about everything around you. So he's just saying that the outside can affect the inside as well as the inside can affect the outside, as above, so below. The 12 keys, as I mentioned in the third degree, as there's some symbolism and some similarities, said to open the 12 doors leading to the stone of the philosopher and to the true medicine, or that which gives immortality. The same terminology would be used by the spiritual alchemist and another in higher sense, but this school possesses a master key. Remember I told you about the key and the value pair. There's a key that's mentioned in the Bible that Peter possesses, the keys to heaven. And as we learn in Masonry, we learned that we obtain certain keys. A master key which opens all the doors. And he says that key is Mercury. But again, I'm not to dive too deep, but when you teach and when you learn alchemy, you'll learn all the juxtaposition of what they're trying to teach in the allegory, as opposed to the outside and inward to the outside. So here's my references. As always, I try to give as much as I can. As Restoring the Temple, Freemasonry, Spiritual Alchemy, Origin and Evolution of Freemasonry, and did a little, history into, the degrees and sonorism and Freemasonry and things like that. So it's available upon request to give more information, but it's just a real brief overview in the interest of time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Brother Vaughns. Well, once again, another great presentation. And I like how you brothers you're taking something I think can be very complicated, and you're simplifying it as much as possible, yet at the same time, hopefully people realize that it's meant to be complex. When you're studying about yourself and your interactions with everything in the world, it's a complicated type of thing. But I think you did a great job in weaving through that on a level where people can understand the importance of it, and also how it ties into overall craft and Freemasonry. So thank you for that, good brother.
Thank you,
Brother Barrett.
All right. So hey, good evening, everyone. Mike, thank you so much. Mike's gonna work my slides here while I'm working from the hotel for Grand Communication. But I have the fantastic job of being able to say, hey, you literally watched Mike and Mike as well as Akoni go through a couple of things, and now you're pretty excited. You're like, hey, I want to go ahead and get my lodge kind of going down this path. So I'm here to kind of walk through some of the steps that you'll take, as well as some of my experience of what we've done in my lodge too that's been successful. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and go to the next slide here for us, and basically where we're going to start. And so the biggest thing that we have to understand is it all starts with buy-in. So we have to be able to let the members of the lodge be at the common level, the ground floor, to be able to understand that this type of Masonic education is needed. And as Past Master Williams spoke about, it's not spooky, it's not something crazy, it's exactly what people mostly listen for or look for when they say they join Masonry. So when you speak to someone, they're always like, hey, I was looking for something deeper, something more. This is exactly what we're here to be able to do. So the first step is we're going to go to buy-in. And then now going to the next slide. When you're looking at the buy-in, the biggest thing that you have to look at too is understanding the leadership and understanding who you really truly need to buy in from. Because every single lodge, every district, every jurisdiction runs and operates differently. In some places, they'll be like, hey, the past master is the one, they're a ruling guy. If they're not for it, it's not happening. Other places like, hey, it's the three principal officers, or it could be some other individuals. Every lodge is extremely different, but you need to be able to understand and identify whether you're an officer or you're a brother that just got raised yesterday, to be able to go through and look in and see, hey, who are the movers, who are the shakers, who are the individuals that help push the needle for what needs to get done and gets accomplished, because those are the conversations that you're going to have first beforehand to be able to go through it. Now, the biggest question people ask me is like, hey, how did you get your lodge to do what they do right now? How did you get the buy-in? And so we'll go over that on the next slide here. And this is where I'm going to spend a little bit more time here. So the buy-in and the topics that we're going to go, these are the three that I found the most success in of getting individuals to be able to work with me and say, hey, this is the type of education that we need. And the one thing you have to understand is that 9 times out of 10, somebody will do what you're looking at getting accomplished if they think it's your idea, if they think it's their idea. So what you do is you have conversations with them to lead them down a path with certainty, to know that this is going to be the way to go. So the first thing, done this in numerous lodges, I ask them, like, hey, can we all agree that masonry, a definition of masonry is a system of morality veiled in allegory, illustrated by symbols? Everyone's raising their hand. They're like, yep, I know that. That's familiar. Of course, absolutely. And so what you do from that point, once you get that, the ball's rolling. So you sit there and ask them and start walking through and have what's called a seek to understand conversation. So you say, okay, cool. Veiled in allegory. So what does veiled mean? Veiled means cover. It lets only a partial amount of light in. So it's veiled. So we go through that definition. Then we walk through allegory. What does allegory mean? It's a story. So you're getting a little bit of a light through a story, right? Then we say illustrated by symbols. So like, all right, point within a circle. A couple other things that we see in Masonic, in our Masonic ritual. And as you go through and you practice, you have this conversation over and over again, literally people will come up to their own conclusion saying, hey, I'm only getting a partial of this information by this story that I'm going through, or these lectures or charges. They're not getting the full thing. And again, I found this extremely successful because everyone agrees that this is basically a definition of masonry. Now, if you're one of the more direct brothers and want to have like a little bit more fun with the conversation, just go straight into it and go like, hey, it's the middle chamber. It's time to get cooking, right? It's time for us to talk about something, because those 7 liberal arts and sciences are barely ever touched on or talked about, but it's a good introduction to going into some of these deeper topics like alchemy and other things. Because if you start off and say, hey, why do we need to study the 7 liberal arts and sciences? That alone would be able to provide you with the foundation and tool to open up the window to have a couple of different conversations down the line that's a little bit more. Because once you get into geometry, music, astronomy, once you get into those things, you're going to dive in really deep, and it'll be very, very hard for you to be able to pull back, which is good. So again, using the middle chamber. And then the last thing, sometimes when I'm working with some individuals, and they need a little bit more to kind of move them, the biggest question I ask now is like, hey, we always say every day, like, we're here as Masons to make good men better. So I ask the question is how? And then they'll give me some answer. They'll say, well, my obligation. I was like, oh, so you're telling me when I'm frustrated or I'm having something wrong at work, when I need to be a little bit more patient or something, me reciting my obligation is going to help me in that point? And they're kind of like, maybe no. And then you can start working down and say, hey, these are practical applications of things we can do in the ritual. Let's talk about it. And then you can start introducing some of the topics. Now, once you've gotten the buy-in, and we'll go to the next slide, and they're saying, yes, we do need some of this esoteric or deeper teachings and meanings. What you got to do is you got to figure out, like, how do I introduce this in the lodge as a whole? And the first one that I found always easy is good of the order, because it's good of the order. Everybody can speak up. They can talk. What you do is you keep it short, concise, and you introduce something very small, something remote that will be able to allow people to gain their attention there and their focus onto some of the deeper aspects. The one thing that our lodge went from a mini series to now a full-blown portion of like our calendar is a mini series. Like, you can pick a topic. I always use the several liberal arts and sciences because those are the easiest, because everyone hears and they're familiar with it, but a lot of people can't articulate why it matters to look on it. So it wouldn't be a topic that would be very out there or confrontational. Okay, so you can set up and say, hey, for the next 7 months, we're going to pick one liberal art, and we're going to go through each month, and we're just going to talk about it. This will get your lodge kind of what I call moving and grooving, getting things in order from that standpoint. Now, again, now that you've identified, and we'll go to the next slide here, of the couple different things that you're looking at, we're going to walk through a strategy on how we can actually be able to get a little bit more engagement too as we go. So Brother Wilson, if we can go to the next slide, we'll talk about the strategy. Now with this strategy, these are like 3 things that I found out that are extremely, extremely, extremely important to being successful in this. And so first is always start off small and be consistent. So I would challenge you, don't just come in that bad boy, start talking about, we're going to talk about archetypes in the Bible and other, like, we're not going to go down that road. Let's just kind of stick with some of the basics. First, get a good understanding, and then make sure to consistently do it. So if you're going to speak up at good of the order, do it so frequently that you then become a part of the agenda. That's what I did in my consistory. At the good of the order, I would literally bring up one little thing. I would define a word, like, this is a word that's in the ritual. This is what it means. how can we apply it in our everyday life? And I kept doing it over and over to the point that now I have a portion in our consistory meeting where it's Masonic education, and now the fratres, which is the Latin plural version of frater, is on there to say, hey, I'm expecting Masonic education. Like, I'm expecting some portion of this every time I come to the meeting. And that's just how we got that to go and how we got to move in our area. The next thing is literally just ask the brothers what they are interested in. Because what you'll find out is there's so many people who, like, how do I put this nicely? Like, secretly trying to look for this stuff, but they just don't know how to talk about it. So if you're in the position where you can just ask people what they want and deliver on that, again, start small and consistent, you then will get the buy-in. They're going to start looking for it, asking for it, and you're going to get a different experience when it comes into the lodge and in the meetings and your interactions with one another. And then the last thing is for the strategy is, and this is, I think, is one of the most important parts that I think no one speaks about, is that we have to ask for feedback. So after every single time you give any part of a Masonic education that's a little bit deeper, this esoteric topic, go around and ask a couple of different people, like, how was it received? Did it make sense? Was I talking too fast? Did I give enough references? And do it every single time, because what you'll find out is, one thing, you'll find out, one, you're actually doing a good job, like, all the time. And then two, you'll figure out that some of the people, while they talk about it, they're going to notice that they're enjoying it, they're liking it, and they're going to, again, continue to go back into that buy-in and expect it. And now when you go to a meeting, it's not about, all right, cool, what bills can I pay today? It's going to be like, what's new that I don't know that I'm going to get out of this individual or this circumstance or this situation, okay? Now, what we'll do is we'll go to the next slide here, Past Master, and I'm going to walk through what my lodge did. So during the pandemic, it was an idea of somebody, not me, not even close. My junior warden was watching a Prince Hall think tank, and he said, hey, brothers out here want more Masonic education. And he said, the Prince Hall think tank is doing a phenomenal job. Why can't we do something like that? And so literally what we did is we put together a lecture series that gets, and it's like, if you're a Master Mason for a regular jurisdiction, we'll go ahead and invite you in. It's registration, and boom, we'll go ahead and we'll do a live stream. Now, just to walk through on this slide to kind of walk you through the progression of how this was successful for us is, the first lecture we did, I picked somebody that was in my jurisdiction, actually, Past Master Harry Weaver, phenomenal guy. I had him speak on something that I knew everyone was familiar with but didn't know a lot about, which was the two St. Johns. So we had him do a lecture. Boom, we go through it. There's some questions to answer, and we're going back and forth. People are fired up. So I started off, like I said before, strategically with something that was common ground for everyone. I made sure that it was something that that everyone can participate in and everyone knew something about, so they felt something special. Like, yeah, I know St. John's, you know. And then what we did is we moved over. Then we get into a little bit more deeper or more unique topics. So circumscribing your desires, the one we had with Past Master Jack, phenomenal lecture. And we're going through it. And now they're like, all right, let me open my eyes up to some a little more. Then I had Past Master Williams do initiation esoteric psychology. And then just recently at our 12-month, after a year of doing it, we capped it off with brother Past Master Vons with two-ball cane. And so what happens is each one of those lectures are equally important. But at the time, many of the people would not, like, if I just started off with initiation of esoteric psychology or two-ball cane, I probably would have got shut down. There probably would have been a lot of issues. But what happens is, because we stayed consistent, we kind of walked people through it and took our time. Now it's like, okay, we know what we're going to get. Now we're expecting it. And now individuals are literally asking and saying, like, hey, this is what we want to be able to do. And so I encourage everybody, because like I said, I think we're one of the first lodges in Prince Hall to do something of this nature consistently. And it's not like an organization or group that's doing it. So like I said, if you want to introduce this into your lodge, I suggest this progression. Now, I'll give you a slide here, give you a couple quick tips. And this is something that people, I think, that's led to our success. Again, find a subject matter expert, okay? There's a lot of individuals here that are good at what they do. If you don't know the topic, just sit back, relax, move out the way, and let the person who's a subject matter expert do it. If you saw from the slide before, all the individual presentations, even though I was the host and my lodge was doing it, I was the worshipful master at the time, I did not present any of those lectures. I went out and I sought out very highly skilled individuals that can articulate themselves very well and provide a service and provide some information to the individual. So I made sure to get a subject matter expert. Again, I can't repeat this enough. Get feedback after each lesson. Every time you give it, whether it's big or small, you have to get some feedback. And the last one, which I think sometimes we forget a lot, it might sound silly, but it's literally, if you're not having fun doing this, if you're not staying on the line over getting just excited, giddy, cracking jokes, looking up some more stuff, then you're probably doing it wrong. Okay. And then the last slide here is a big thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, my goal is to be able to show people, these things are happening and encourage the position to be able to be the most effective so it's received the most. So yeah, this is what we did in our lodge. It's been a lot of success here, and we had a lot of fun. So I appreciate the time.
So I've been in the craft for a little over 25 years now. Proud of my years, proud of the service and different things I've done. And one consistent thing that I've heard from some brothers from time to time that try to introduce any type of new concept into the lodge, be it Masonic education, a new it could be a new fundraiser idea or anything, was like when they get shot down, they become immediately frustrated and then just disappear. You don't see them again. And when I talk to them and find out exactly what did they do, like what was the process or the steps that they took, they often say, well, I just made the presentation in front of the lodge. And I ask, okay, well, did you talk to anyone beforehand? Did you research anything? Trying to, dig into what the steps were. What this brother just presented and the blueprint in regards to how to get the lodge engaged, I would say that not only on this matter, as far as the subject matter that we're talking about tonight, but in anything you want to do in your lodge, I think he hit on a lot of key points that will lead a lot of us into not getting frustrated and stressed, and probably have a little more success in getting the lodge moved in a direction, a certain direction. So, from now on, when I'm having these conversations with brothers, I'm not even going to talk. I'm just going to shoot them this link and tell them to look at this presentation, to look, because that was excellent, Brother Barrett, on a lot of different levels, and how you just, again, made it plain and say, hey, this is the game plan that you need, because it's not about, I think what happens a lot of times, and we're going to go to some of our questions, and looking at some of the questions, I think some of our audience hit on this too, but I think sometimes we find ourselves coming into Freemasonry, and I mean, rightfully so, thinking, okay, I should be expecting a lot of this. And then you get brothers coming in and they don't see it, and they get, again, frustrated and say, okay, well, I'm going to introduce it. And they run into that brick wall. Sometimes that brick wall is the past masters. Sometimes the brick wall is the infamous, well, this is the way that we've always done it. Or just something, and then again, they don't really just think it out and put that plan into place. So again, brother, thank you for that excellent presentation. All of you just did amazing jobs, from starting out with what is it, how is it related to Freemasonry, and then how can we get that taught into our class. And again, like the way that you presented it was excellent too. So kudos to you, good brothers. Brother Morgan, questions from our great audience.
Well, yes, we do have several questions. Before I go there, I want to definitely thank the brothers for their presentation, particularly to Brother Barrett. One thing about your presentation that you said, you didn't say it the way I'm about to say, but you said it, which was that you saw a need, you saw an issue, and the brothers took control of the lodge, because after all, you pay dues, you're an officer, et cetera, or you're a member. And one thing that Brother Caffey says all the time on our show is let's teach Freemasonry in our lodges. Well, I also think it's important that we take control of our lodges, particularly those of us who are inclined to want to talk about some of the more esoteric, or just sit and think for a minute about the ritual or the history or whatever the case may be. I actually had a question that you answered in your presentation, which was what our role is as brothers who are interested in conferring light and educating the brothers, or in even facilitating that educational process. My question was, how do we go about doing that? And you answered it in your presentation, which was take control of the lodge, take control of your chapter, start small but think big. Get the buy-in. All of that is very important, because I think one of the problems that I've had over the years, and that's frustrated me personally, is I don't um, I don't have this bone in me that says, well, because such and such said I can't do it, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like Brother Cappy said, I'm just going to take my board and go home. No, that because such and such said I can't do it now, I'm definitely going to get it done, right? And so I just want to commend you, brothers, for that, and especially Brother Barrett for giving that breakdown. And it really warms my heart personally, because hearing your story, to me, that's one of the reasons why I'm here. That's one of the reasons why I've been doing this since I was about 24, 25. Now I'm in my 30s, because I wanted to help inspire brothers and sisters, for that matter, to do exactly what you did. It doesn't satisfy me that if you watched every episode of the Prince Hall Think Tank, unless you take what you've got here and take it back to your lodge, to your chapter, what have you, and go off. That's what I do this for. I know I know what my voice sounds like, but I want to thank you for that. With that being said, let's get into the Q&A from the audience. I know they've been chatting it up. Gregory Mathis asked the question. I think this is for Brother Williams. He wants to know, where did Pythagoras study?
Could you repeat that?
The question is, where did Pythagoras study?
Where did Pythagoras study? Pythagoras, he got his education, we all know, from Egypt. Him and quite a few Greeks went to Egypt and places. Well, it was called Alexandria. I'm not for sure exactly when it changed from Egypt to Alexandria, Thebes, and things like that, where they started studying Pythagorean theorem, his science, his mathematics, his music, understanding musical octaves, understanding. He learned all of that from somewhere in Egypt. Not exactly sure where, but that's where most of Greek antiquity derived their wisdom. Then they passed it on to the Romans, and then from Romans and paganism, we have a lot of what we see today that has transpired into not only religion, but also esoteric thinking groups and societies and secret societies or not secret societies, but groups that were mentioned in the presentation.
Excellent. I know you answered this in the chat, but I did want to get you on camera. Brother Elgin Nelson asked you, is Freemasonry esoteric or exoteric with an esoteric nature? I know you answered in the chat, but did you kind of summarize what your response was for folks at home?
Yeah, so what I said in the chat was that Freemasonry essentially is both esoteric and exoteric. It is what you want it to be. We all want to make Masonry what we think it should be for somebody else, but in reality, it's not. It's what the individual comes into Masonry for. If you come into Masonry for fundraising and that's what you want to do, that's your Masonry. If you come in looking for esoteric topics and want to study esotericism, it's there for you. If you want to just go in and just chill with the brothers, it's there for you. Masonry is not what everybody wants it for you, for that individual to be. It's your Masonry. You do Masonry your way. That is esoteric in itself, because it's not really taught or told to anybody. Yes, you're a Mason and you belong to a lodge, but in reality, yes, I belong to this lodge, I belong to this organization, but if I have a different flavor for Masonry than somebody else has, Masonry has it for you. You just have to find an individual that think like you and be like you, want to be like you. Brother Jack, me and Brother Jack, we've known each other for more than 13, 14 years. And you too, Brother Morgan, we've been around in this game for a long time. And 10 years ago, nobody would even be thinking to talk to me about any of these subjects. But here we are from 2013 to 2022, we're talking about it on camera. Topics that I was saying, I throw out a hint here and there, and people was like, man, what the heck is this cat talking about? But, eventually it transpires, and then people's like, hey, maybe he was onto something back then. Let's see what's going on. Not to put myself on the soapbox, but now more brothers are interested in these topics. It's a timing thing. So either, you might go into a lodge, that wants just brotherhood. They got lodges just for that. It's what you want it to be. There is no perfect shoe of masonry, esoteric or exoteric. It's what you want it to be.
And I think that's the beautiful thing, like what you did, Brother Williams, is you basically described, along with Brother Vaughns, you described what speculative masonry is. What you're describing is what masonry is for you and how you're using it to make yourself better. And there is no right or wrong answer, as far as that, just like, we've been talking about how we have been excited for this show because we wanted to fuse history and esotericism together to show and how basically what you showed is that in order to understand what esotericism is, you have to understand the history of it, right? So it's basically what you want it to be, how you and how you plan on using it. I'll never forget the excitement that you had when I was doing some research for Scottish Rite, and I stumbled upon the Druze faith, and I had put in to the group me, has anybody ever heard of the Druze faith? And I wish I could have seen your face because you just, I could tell he was like, man, I've been waiting for somebody else to talk about this too. But like you said, it's about that timing, because we have to remember that this journey is individual. And just like it took you time to get to where you are, it's going to take another person time to get to that same place, if they even choose to get to that place. That may not be the same road, the same destination they're trying to get to, and that's okay. But as long as you are at least trying to understand, where that person is, because as I say all the time, we know how we're supposed to meet. How can you meet somebody that you don't understand? So at some point you have to get to the point where you at least understand where they are and still be able to take your journey and where you want to go as far as masonry is concerned.
And it's interesting too, because we're all taught this in my belief and understanding. We're taught this coming through the degrees through our degree process. So even when you become a master mason, you have people still on different levels within masonry, and that and the beautiful thing about it, and especially Brother Williams, what you said is that's okay. Like where people, brothers come in and they want to focus on this, they want to focus on that, because it may mean something more to them. It may, hit them a certain way. It's okay. The thing that I think we all need to make sure that we're doing is we have those things and those avenues available for brothers. So when they come in, it's almost like a menu where, okay, we're offering this, we're offering that, and then you're going to find, depending on not only where you're at currently, but where you're at in life. I came into the lodge at 24, and what I needed then is something completely, 21. And what I needed then is completely different than at the age of 50, what I need now. So I think, brothers, I just think having that understanding, I think, is key. But you hit a lot of good points with answering that question, brother.
I completely agree. One thing I'll just say real quickly on that point is everybody's Masonic journey it can be very individual. But I think the beautiful thing is what we're doing right now is the discussion part, right? Where we can come together from different perspectives, different places, and have the conversation, whether it's around symbolism or what have you. And with that being said, I would say this, one thing that I know that a lot of folks will look at our program and say, "Oh, we've done a lot of episodes on history. Not all, but we've done quite a bit." And there's a couple reasons for that. But one reason I think that doesn't get talked about, maybe this could be a whole nother discussion, is when we think about the history of Prince Hall Freemasonry, the thing that doesn't get talked about is that the brothers and sisters of the past were dealing with a lot of these same topics we're talking about right now. So that's a whole nother conversation of itself, of thinking about individuals who were formerly enslaved or what have you, who end up starting lodges, joining lodges, establishing the Eastern Star and whatnot. They're interested in these same exact topics, but even back in the 1700s, the 1800s, or what have you. And we know that because we can go back and look and see what they were saying, look and see what they were doing. If they weren't, why did this organization get to be so big as far as Prince Hall affiliation is concerned, right? So there's something there that speaks to not just in terms of the African American history, but just I think basically to humanity as well, right? Of what these degrees and what these different lessons mean to us as individual human beings, regardless of color, right? So yeah, brother Vaughns, I want to pitch this next question to you, or to you first, from Sister Hackett. She asks, "Are all initiated members of lodges in possession of the secret work, and if not, why?"
It's a loaded question. I
Unpack
think
it for us.
I think I'm gonna keep it light. I think to identify what that secret work is key, because to know what your intent and purpose is on this earth is key. You don't have to be a Mason to know this. It doesn't really matter. What I think what happens to her question is that possessing the knowledge of who you are and what your purpose is, that's where I believe Masonry comes into play, because when you come into a body of like-minded brothers who can help identify your strength and weaknesses appropriately and say to yourself, well, okay, you can teach, or you can administer the finances. Now you see that, what does it have to do with esotericism and the secret work? Knowing from the simple standpoint of being a worker bee in a beehive, that's esotericism, right? Everybody has a job to do. So if you understand that at a very simple, basic level, you're esoteric. And you're understanding what the secret work is. Because the secret work is for us to not only do for ourselves, is to do for others. To understand that in itself is to also understand what the actual intent and purpose of God has for us. Those are supreme being, whoever you may call him. Let me be politically correct. Excuse me. To understand that if you identify that that is what you want to believe, tolerance is not accepting, but tolerance is saying, I believe this and you believe that. Let's come to a middle ground and let me learn something different. So now I've expounded my knowledge and built upon that, and I've become a better man, right? Intent and purpose of Masonry. Now we've solved the problem. There it is. And I think that, so to answer your question, you may or may not know, but I think Masonry will help you identify that if you're willing and open-minded to listen.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb, and answer the question in a simple form and say, is everybody in possession of the secret work? I'm going to say no. And the reason why I'm going to say no is because a lot of times, and we've discussed this in previous episodes before this, we have a tendency to go through the work, will it be the ceremonies of initiation, whether it be opening ceremonies, so on and so forth. We have a tendency to go through it, go through the routine of the work without asking the proper questions, like, why are we doing the work? What is it about this work that is important? How did this work come to be? And when it comes to diving into that understanding that Brother Vaughns is speaking of, even breaking it down to its simplest form, a lot of times we have a tendency to say something without having the understanding of what we're saying. You know, a lot of people like to call that being parrot masons, right? Where we can regurgitate something, but not actually have the understanding of what, you know, what it is that we're doing. For example, I like the book, Brother Vaughn, that you had um, brought up, Freemasonry Spiritual Alchemy by Christopher Earnshaw. I actually have his, and you know, his entire collection. And so one of the things that I'm working on is a presentation called the Soul of Man, and I blame Michael Williams for this. Actually, I blame Brother Williams, Brother Vaughns, and all of you who like to, you know, post what book you're reading, and you have to make me go out and get this book so I can see what it is. Now I have a back seat in the trunk full of books. So one of the books that he was Brother Williams was diving into was The Secret Teachings of the Vedas. And so I actually had to go out and buy this book. And as I'm looking at the book, one of the first chapters that I go into, I believe it's in chapter 5, which discusses the soul. Now, the soul is something that we don't talk about very often. As a matter of fact, you don't necessarily hear the word soul in masonry until a person is called from labor to reward, and we talk about the immortality of the soul. But when we talk about the soul, why is the soul important? Well, if you don't understand the soul, what is the soul? What is the description, you know, of the soul? And just going into that, as far as the Vedas are concerned, it asks you a simple question: who are you? And that simple question could be so so complex, because it tells you, you know, take away your organizations, take away your, you know, all of your outside thing, you know, even take away your name. Do you know who you are? And then just diving deep into that, and having an understanding of who you are will give you an understanding what your purpose is and what you're supposed to do while you're here on this earth. So when it comes to that question that the Sister Hackett asks, I think in order for you to know the secret work that you're supposed to do, you have to be able to ask the right questions, and a lot of times the questions aren't being asked.
Excellent. I'm gonna do one last one because the hour is getting late. But we're gonna make it a good one. Okay. And so, before I do that, Brother Vaughn's, I know I see Elgin Nelson had wanted to know if you were familiar with a book, and I lost the comment, but if you can check in there.
Yeah, he spoke to The Path of Freemasonry, the craft as a spiritual practice.
Right.
Mark Stavish. Yes, I do have that book. Yes.
Okay.
It's a good read. I would suggest anyone that would like to read and expound upon it a little further to take a chance to read that book. It is on Amazon. And Mark Stavish does a really good job of kind of making it elementary as possible and kind of building it up to a more complex concept. And I'll say this before, and I'll wrap my comments up. It's not this esotericism thing is not a PH thing. It's not a Grand Lodge Estate thing. And I'm saying this because I want us to be very, very mindful that it is a open-minded way of thinking about everything that affects you inward and outward, and how you handle your life and how you make better choices, whether it be through meditation or prayer, whether you're talking or listening, whether you're asking or giving. You know, it doesn't really matter. It's just the concept of, like, when you read these books and things like that, understand it's trying to make you a better person so that you can better your lodge, your jurisdiction, and wherever the impact, the greater impact will be. As Brother Jack said, you have to know. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know the questions to ask, but our curiosity and our passion will lead us to where we are destined to be. And hopefully it'll drive us to that success. And I just want everybody to understand it is like, it's not that deep, but it is at the same time. So don't be scared and enjoy the ride.
Absolutely. I see some discussion about some of that jumping off in the chat. I just want to say one thing real quick, which is that, you know, our show, at least speaking for the Prince Hall Think Tank, I won't speak for the Esoteric Lighthouse, but for us, we are the Prince Hall Think Tank. We focus on PHA history and blah blah, blah and et cetera, et cetera. But that's our historical lineage. Now, as Masons, Eastern Stars, what have you, we understand that we are part of a greater network, but we're focusing on, you know, just like how you have your cousins and them that you see at the family reunion versus your brothers and sisters that you grew up with, right? So we understand that, but we all understand we also want one family, or at least that's how we're supposed to be, anyway, right? So with that being said, I'm gonna throw Brother Barrett for the last question. I'm actually gonna take two questions and throw them into one. So somebody wants to know, do you have any last tips on how we disseminate this information once we get off this program today? And someone else wants to know, will there be a part 2? So Brother Barrett, you gotta answer both of those heavy questions.
Okay. So I answer this the second one first. Part 2. I know we're down for it game, so I'm excited. So it'll be let's get it popping. ELH know what we're doing. You know what I mean? We're down for this all the time. And then 2, the question about disseminating this information. What I would do is I would identify. I'm just speaking about how I speak on my lodge. I look at it in 2 different factions. I have one that's more technological, like text messaging, group meets, and things of that nature. Then I have a couple other individuals who they're like, hey, if we're going to do something, make sure my letter and my notice is in the mail. All right. Being an effective leader and being effective in anything that you do, you need to understand these individuals and you need to understand how to communicate with them. So first thing I would do too is Prince Hall Think Tank, the actual page plus this link. I will send it to everybody in a text message group me. Then I would do Esoteric Lighthouse the same way, send it to them like, hey, check this out. Let's talk about it. The older individuals or the individuals that do not want to do like this, I'll personally give them a call and ask them a question and be like, hey, like, how has Masonry changed your life? What are some of the things that you saw that moved you and kind of changed the way that you view things? Like, what are some of the things specifically in Masonry? And what they'll do is they'll talk about either a ritual or something else. And then what you do is you pull that information out. And then what you do is like, well, hey, I saw something like this. And that reminds me of what you just told me about. And then you pass on that information to them. And then now they're going to be like, they have a connection with you. You learned a little bit about their story. They're learning a little bit about your story. And now you guys are going to have this common bond. And I think the most effective or the reason why I've been fortunate to be effective in like my communication, things that happen, is I learned now from work and more especially from my wife. Shout out, she's watching, Samara Barrett. She's phenomenal. She makes sure that I'm always on point. But what I do is I don't interact with people and things that I'm not passionate about or I don't care about. I'm not a sports guy, so you don't hear me talking about sports. I like esotericism, so I talk about this with people. I like anime, so I talk about anime. I don't speak on these things. And once you start doing that, and once your conversation with every individual in Masonry is based off of things that you're passionate about, and you find a common ground, no matter how small it is, all your conversations then become genuine. And when they become genuine, that's when you can rely and ask for favors, or you can go in and say, hey, let's do this together, because they know you're being genuine about something. They're not going to be concerned about what is the end result or something of that nature. So long story short is find a common ground, be comfortable, learn how to communicate to the people, whether you're an officer or not an officer, understand the use of technology, push technology forward, but also too, just don't leave some of those individuals in the past, give them their personal feel. Call that past master, because all he wants is a call. He doesn't want an email, and it's not going to happen. I got one brother who's same age as me, my senior warden. I can't send him an email. If I want him to do something, I call him. And I know that. So guess what? I call him. So, but hey, that's my answer to the question.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Brother Caffey.
All right. Thank you, Brother Morgan. Thank you to our, once again, our great audience for those great questions. Before we go to closing comments, Brother Williams, if someone wanted to check out the Esoteric Lighthouse and what you good brothers are doing, how could they tune in, time, day, like how could they access that info?
Okay. Well, you can view our past episodes on YouTube, iTunes. Also, what's the other one, Brother Vaughn? We're on like 3 different things.
Yeah, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, and we are on YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah, brother Vaughns, Past Master Vaughns, he's our tech guru. He's the one who hooked all of that up for us. But for our live show, we're really a week after you. So when you have your show, we're the following week. No, wasn't intentionally set up like that, but that's just how it fell. So literally 1 week after Prince Hall Think Tank, you got Esoteric Lighthouse coming right at you. So I think you guys are the last Sunday of the month, and we're the first Sunday of the month.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, good brother. And then we'll make sure that we definitely want to post that info on our Facebook page too, so people can access you all's information, great information that you're putting out there. All right. So without further ado, let's go to closing comments. We'll start with Brother Morgan.
Oh man, well, I would just say I want to thank these brothers for taking time out of their busy schedules to join with us and whatnot. And as was said earlier, I think I heard somewhere about emulating who could best work and best agree, and I'm glad to see that the work that we've done on the Prince Hall Think Tank has inspired these brothers to go off and do their own thing, and also to take control of not only their individual Masonic journeys, but also of their organizations that they are a part of. And I sincerely hope that we can do this again. As Brother Vaughn said, maybe we need to do something live. And I know he and I are not that far apart because I go to Baltimore just about every day of the week, including tomorrow. So maybe we need to do that here, or we'll figure something out. But the one thing I would like to leave off with is that there's often been this tension in the circles of Masonic education around what's more important. Is it important to get that officer training and prepare our folks for leadership positions for those who are going in that path? Is it more important that people know about Masonic history and whatnot? Is it more important that you understand finance? Is it more important that you understand the ritual and esotericism? A holistic Masonic education should incorporate all of those different avenues. And so it's my hope that in doing this, that we are helping to provide a more holistic education for all of you who are watching live, as well as for those who will watch in the future on the replay. I say get it all. I say get it off from everywhere you can. And again, for me, what we're doing is not successful if you're not taking it back to your individual organizations, to your districts, to your jurisdictions. And even if you say, hey, look, I don't agree with nothing that Brother Morgan said. I don't agree with nothing what that Brother Barrett or Caffey said. That's fine. Go ahead and educate and keep it going, because that's how it's supposed to be. There's no big eyes, no little U's around here. And I'm just thrilled and honored to be counted in a number among these really intelligent, distinguished brothers. I really am. So I look forward to seeing everybody, next month. And this is the James Morgan Man of the Year signing off.
Thank you, I had to put it in Jack.
Oh boy.
I had to put it in there. I'm sorry. I had to do it once. Y'all gotta give me that just once.
All right. So, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, to those of you who have given us the most valuable piece of your life this evening, and that is your time. What you have witnessed this evening is Freemasonry. That's the best way that I can say it. What you have witnessed this evening is Freemasonry. There is no reason for any of us to have to say, well, should I choose history over esotericism? Is one better than the other? There's nothing wrong with favoring one than the other, whatever you have a passion for. But at the end of the day, as brothers Williams, brother Vaughns, and brother Barrett showed you this evening, you can't have one without the other. So what you have witnessed this evening is Freemasonry. To my brothers and my friends of Esoteric Lighthouse, thank you for taking the time to come together for this for history that has been made tonight. Um, we know what some of the back talk was about. But as Brother Morgan so eloquently stated, we're here together. So now, what can you say? Me being from Harlem, born and raised, I take it from Ace, from Paid in Full. Everybody eats. We all have each have a platform that we can use and go. And as long as it is elevating elevating this thing we love called Freemasonry, it's a beautiful thing. As always, I thank you all for your time that you have given to us to come and enlighten you and educate you this evening. We definitely hope that you have taken something from this evening. We definitely have to do it again. And before I go, I do have to, excuse me, highlight my lodge. Excuse me, Paul Drake #7. This year we are celebrating 150 years of existence. And one of the ways that we are doing so, we do have these challenge coins that we are commemorative challenge coins that we are selling. There are $20 a piece. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, please get with me. There are $20 a piece. Add $5 for shipping and handling. Get with me, and I will get you the info on how you can do so. But again, thank you for your time this evening, and look forward to seeing you again next month.
Brother Jack, this is Past Master James Morgan. This is me getting with you in front of everybody. So I'm getting with you. So
Absolutely, I got you.
I got Brother Michael Williams' credit card. So just
Speaking of Brother Williams, closing thoughts.
All right. Good evening again. I just want to thank the brothers from Prince Hall Think Tank for allowing me and the panelists from Esoteric Lighthouse to be in your presence. And I love your show. We watch your show all the time. We discuss your show. When we think of Masonry as a whole, as you brothers have mentioned, you can't have one without the other. As we tried to display today, that esotericism fundamentally is nothing but trying to understand yourself and your surroundings. So for those who would want to think it's something more than that, something like occultism, all that means is hidden too. So in reality, saying you don't like esotericism or you don't want to study esotericism or it's a naughty word, you really defeating the purpose of Masonry, because Masonry in itself is kind of esoteric, but kind of not esoteric, as we display it. But again, not to beat the dead horse on what we talked about on the show. I appreciate being able to parlay with you brothers and talk. And I'm going to beat Dave up for not being present. And next time I see him, and for y'all who know, y'all know why. But thanks again for allowing us on your show.
Well, the Knicks didn't make the playoffs, so he's in mourning right now.
That's why I couldn't be on tonight.
Yeah, he's in mourning. We always give him a pass whenever the Knicks don't make the playoffs, and that's usually every year around this time. So,
Brother Vaughn's closing thoughts.
So again, thank you. You didn't have to do it, but you did, and I appreciate that, because it's a true show of brotherly love, and I do not take it lightly. Also, thank you for everybody for coming on, and as Brother Jack said, taking time out of your day to view us. Going on and on about the same stuff y'all always hear, but like I said, I'm like John the Baptist in the wilderness. I'm gonna keep crying out till somebody get a hold of it. So, but all that being said, thank you, and understand this, everyone, that you can only get out what you put in. It's like a bank account. esotericism comes within, but if it's not there, you're gonna get nothing out. So you have to read, study, acclimate, ask questions, go out there, and just like with history, I'll put a plug out there. Brother James R. Morgan, the third man of the year. His book is excellent, but I put that balance in my mind because I have to be juxtaposed with both thought processes. Because if I can't speak eloquently about one thing, then how is anybody going to take me seriously on another? So, and it's just keeping that balance in life and knowing that to be a studious, true Mason of the arts and sciences, you have to be well versed in breadth and depth of all things, and that's what this truly is. So this is history in the making. I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you, good brothers, and I look forward to many more. Thank you.
Thank you, good brother. Last but not least, Brother Barrett.
All right. Well, hey, I just want to say I appreciate that, and echo the sentiments of my brothers. I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. And the biggest thing that, again, for people to be able to bring back is understanding that you can be able to make the change that you want to see. I think oftentimes we get extremely discouraged because we feel as if masonry is stagnant. And this is from when I visited Grand Lodge of State Brothers, PHA. It's all the same. It's all masonry. And we're all running into the same issue. What I truly believe that is something that's going to be pivotal in our growth is looking at Masonic education, because I want people to think about this, is that if you're in a situation where you're able to provide a different type of value, a unique value proposition, something that you can give to someone that they cannot get anywhere else, at that point they shall return. So I say that, like with Tesla, Apple, people keep buying and keep going to those things is because they understand that they're getting a certain product that they cannot get anywhere else. So what ends up going to happen right now is, if I know I can provide a certain level of Masonic education that I cannot get, because I'm part of a Greek letter fraternity, the best Greek letter fraternity in the world, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. You should have known it was coming. You should have known it was coming. You should have known it was coming. But I love Sigma, and Sigma gives me a certain thing, but our initiation that we do in masonry is just different. It's not better, it's not worse. It's just extremely different. And I promise you, I don't think anyone be able to say that they can experience initiation process like they do in masonry. So if you're in the Blue House or in your OES chapter, you're not gonna go to church, not going to 100 Black Men, you're not going to all these, you're not getting that experience. So why not focus on that experience to be able to retain members, to be able to reclaim them, to be able to reclaim them back? That's going to be the difference. That's what's going to propel masonry forward. And so that's why it's one of my focuses, one of the things that I do. And hopefully anybody watching this, last thing you need to know is reach out to us. I've never once reached out to somebody via social media and asked for help and they didn't help me out. Some people take longer than others, but every single person helped me out. So please reach out to myself, reach out to Williams, Jack. We talk now probably once a week now. You know what I mean? And it started off from reaching out online. So start and go through those things so you can get the best education and you can literally change masonry. Because again, I truly believe Masonic education is the depth that's going to retain us and that's going to allow us to go another 100 years.
True indeed, good brother. Thank you. Again, thank you to our great guest of the Esoteric Lighthouse. As they said, please check out their show, check out their podcast, get your hands on that information because it is great information to have. And most importantly, with them and with us, it's one thing to take in the information for yourself, but begin putting that plan in place to implement those things in your lodge. Again, thank you all to our great guests. Thank you to our great audience. Thank you to the panelists and everyone. Have a great evening. And remember, please, let's teach masonry in our lodges. Have a great night.